For the last several years, we have been fighting voter suppression on TV One, whether it was Washington Watch and now News One Now. It is a critically important issue because Republicans are making every attempt they can to deny people access to the ballot. Now, of course, critics will say, well, how dare you say that, Roland, because that's not really true. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at voter ID, when you look at the whole issue of early voting, when you look at cutting early voting under this guise of saving money, it is absolute nonsense. When you also talk about moving voting polls, it also speaks to nonsense. Now we have a conservative-leaning Supreme Court that has granted an emergency plea from Ohio state officials to delay early voting one day before it was supposed to begin. Instead, polls are going to open next week. Civil rights groups and churches say the move is voter suppression and will have a negative impact on minority voters. This decision may also have ramifications in other states like North Carolina, Arkansas, and Texas. Here we are 37 days from the midterm elections, and all of a sudden the Supreme Court is ruling on the issue of early voting. Joining me right now from the Ohio House of Representatives, she also heads the Black Caucus there, State Rep Alicia Reese, also on the panel, Law and Victoria Burke, managing editor of Politics365.com, Kevin Martin with Project 21, Michelle Hudgens, communication strategist. Representative Reese, I got to go to you. I got a problem, a serious problem here. Here we are. Okay, a little more than a month from the election, and all of a sudden the Supreme Court weighs in, delaying early voting, essentially saying it's okay for Ohio to play this game of suppressing the vote.
Well, it's a major problem. I mean, we're talking hours before early voting was to start. I'm here at Eastern Personnel African American Business that opens its doors right across the street from the Board of Elections so that we can make sure people who are coming down to vote know that they can't vote today, that they'll have to vote next week. This is huge, but, you know, Roland, we've been saying it. You've been here in Ohio. We've been in the barbershops, the beauty shops. We've been saying that we need a permanent solution. And in Ohio, we kicked off the Ohio Voter Bill of Rights. You've been here. We have 100,000 signatures that we collected in 90 days, got our language approved and everything. You know, this further confirms that we need a voter bill of rights in the Constitution, particularly in our state constitution right here in Ohio. We could be the example. And so today we're calling for action. We're having a voting rights action summit that will happen on October the 11th. We're dispatching people that will be going door to door. We'll be at the beauty and the barbershops, getting the signatures. We don't have to worry about the dogs being turned on us. We don't have to worry about shedding blood in the streets. All we have to do is sign the petition so that the people can decide what their voting rights are. If we had this in the Constitution, we wouldn't have this problem. We wouldn't be praying that Clarence Thomas does the right thing. It's time now to put it in the hands of the people. And that's what we're doing. We set up a hotline. We're on the streets. And we can't stop until we get this in the Constitution.
So help me out here. So folks were planning, they were gearing up to go to the polls today. Now all of a sudden it's been delayed 7 days. They also, according to this particular bill, they've also blocking voting on Sundays?
Yes, there'll be a directive that was already out that stopped souls to the polls that the Secretary of State, Houston, put out. And that's why we got to get out and get rid of him and put Nina Turner in. So, you know, these directives have come down. They've even voted to pick up the Board of Elections, Roland, where I'm right across the street from, take it from downtown where the buses and everybody can get to, put it in an area in 2016 where it's only one bus line. It's time now for the people to fight back, and we've been successful in a lot of court decisions and being able to keep it at bay. But this has to now get into the hands of the people. And that's why the Voter Bill of Rights is so important. And you've tried to tell people, we've tried to warn people, but now it's time for us to mobilize, take action, sign the petitions, like you said, get the fraternities, the sororities, organizations, college students. Let's mobilize and let the people decide versus waiting on the Supreme Court to do the right thing.
Lauren, this is no doubt to me a clear effort on the part of Republicans in Ohio, also emulated across the country, to suppress the vote. And what jumps out at me is they cannot offer a real rationale why you would outlaw voting on Sundays when it worked in the past. Ohio, in fact, increased their turnout in 2012. Why would you change the law after you've increased the vote
right.
to all of a sudden move it back?
Obviously, it should bother and disturb anybody that 5 members of any branch of our government, no less the Supreme Court, are in favor of limiting any voting time. That's what they voted for. They voted for longer lines in Ohio. We saw what happened in 2004. When we look at who's standing in those longer lines, they're typically going to be African Americans in the majority. And really, Mike DeWine and John Husted didn't even bother to really make an argument. They just said states' rights, which in this country, with our history, when you hear a states' rights argument, you know that's going downhill. So they didn't even really bother to make an argument as to why there should be less voting hours. Okay? I mean, they didn't even bother with that. They just said, well, the states, through their elected representatives, should be able to decide this issue, and then that was it. No argument whatsoever.